Hello and welcome to the Max Revenue Show. I'm your host, Trey, along with the Zen Master of Commercial Insurance, Micah Salas. Micah, how are you this morning?
Peaceful, happy,
Great.
joyful.
Joyful. Happy, joyous, and free?
Yes.
Great. Stoked for you. All right. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to get good at coverage, like how to really learn your industry of choice and how to get into the weeds to know coverages, coverage forms, who's who. Like, how do you get good at the other side? Not the sales and prospecting, but how do you get good on the coverage and the technical stuff? Micah received a great question from a listener, and so we're going to delve into that. But before we do that, shout out to today's sponsor, Insurance Xdate. Generate leads, win new business. Insurance Xdate is where new business begins. Industry relevant data delivered on a software platform built for sales, not research. Identify and engage with prospects in minutes, keep track of your opportunities, and get production done. EB producers, P&C producers, it's for both of you. Workers' comp, health and retirement, maybe even some life stuff. I don't know. I don't know crap about that side of the business. Anyways, small shops all the way up to big shops. They've got Brown and Brown offices, McGriff offices, USI. This is small and big, E&B, P&C, everybody in between. Can't recommend them enough. Micah, I know this is like the backbone of your prospecting, strategy and playbook. So, guys, huge fans of Insurance X8. Go check them out. Can't recommend it enough. Link to free trial, free demo, whatever, in the show notes. All right,
Amen.
let's get into it. Micah?
Yes.
Enlighten us.
So our boy Joe sent me a quick email, an in-mail. Hey, wanted to reach out, pick your brain on how to gain knowledge in the industry and how to really understand policy structure and what the policy is truly covering. He goes on to kind of give me his background a little bit, which I don't need to share here, but he says then everyone always says, learn as much about the industry as you can, learn policy structure as well as you can, but never actually points you in the direction to accomplish this. What do you recommend? So great question there, Joe. Before I kind of get into where I'd point them or kind of what I tell people, let me talk about a little bit of why this is important. And there's really three main reasons in my opinion. It's like, first of all, insurance sales is a very unique animal because we got to open up doors and basically be a hunter. But then also you're selling a product that's kind of complex, but also could really screw someone over if you do it wrong, right? So there's kind of a lot of different components working there. And this is one of the reasons I think historically younger producers maybe have a tougher time. But I don't want that to discourage you if you don't know a lot. I've always said this because I sold a lot when I was young. Because your strength, your weakness, is knowledge when you're young, right? And the perception, even if you know a lot, it's the perception of the prospect, and they're going to think this guy's young. Can I trust him? So that's like the biggest thing you got to overcome. Now, I really want to encourage you, you can get up to speed of where most brokers are at. When I say most, let's just say 80% in, I think, a year, 6 months to a year. Most people out there don't know that much. I was just talking with an underwriter last night, and he's like, it is crazy. He's like, I can't believe how dumb people are in this industry. Like, they don't know anything about insurance. This is his words, not mine, right? No, this isn't everybody, but he was like, either it seems like the broker doesn't know anything and then the account manager does, or maybe the account manager knows everything and the broker knows nothing, right? It's kind of like one or the two. And he was telling me a story about like business income. And he was like, oh, it's not a policy because the client needed business income. She's like, no, it says business interruption. It's the same coverage. And he wasn't joking. He's like, this person had 20 years of experience and she was adamant. And so that's kind of one example. When I started at Federated when I was young, one of the advantages I had was spending a year at home office to learn. But I would still say it's kind of like being in school. Like, you think you can know a lot, you could be kind of book smart, but until you get out there and you're talking it and integrating it into your everyday life, that's when you're really going to learn it. But there was a lot of times I'd get out there and just pick 20, 30-year agents apart on just basic coverage things. I was like, they'd be like, no, that's not how it works. They're like, yeah, here it is in your policy, dude. That's, they're wrong. I'm right. Here it is. There's the proof. If you want to talk about speeding up credibility and trust, knowledge is the way to do that. So I know we kind of poo-poo research and stuff like that, pre-call research, but we don't poo-poo knowledge. Now, maybe I think the designations are a little bit overrated, but I'm going to talk about that too, of why they're important, I think now more than ever, which is kind of a 180 from what I've said in the past, kind of making fun of designations. So man, I am just talking like a mile a minute. Kind of, I think I've lost from what I was going to say, but I think that to recap everything before I get into the kind of the main things, insurance is unique. But you can shrink the learning curve, gain credibility with buyers through knowledge, and that's why it's so critical to do that. So don't be intimidated. It's crazy how much you can learn by just reading, absorbing yourself, sitting around people who are smarter than you, asking questions, and so we'll talk about some of the specific ways to do that. And then one last thing is, why is this so important? If you are not as knowledgeable as you need to be, you're going to have to, the model is, hey, young guy, go out there, get these amazing opportunities, bring it into the house. Guess what? Then you got to bring in an old gray-haired silver fox, to come in and help you close the deal. Okay, so you bring that silver fox in, you close the deal, and instead of getting 10 grand in your pocket, you only get 5 grand, right? And half towards your book. And now you are 2-3 years in, and your book's maybe half the size it could have been if you just understood how to do stuff yourself. I'm not saying there's a time and place not to split accounts and to co-broker stuff, but you don't need to do it on every deal, especially if you can learn and know what you're doing. So that's one of the main reasons. The other two, I think it's just going to make you sell more, right? And it does, if you are younger, it helps bridge that gap of like, hey, I'm young, but I know my stuff. There's people in this industry, Mr. Business Owner, that just don't know their stuff. They don't spend the time to learn. I'm always learning, here, and let me show you. And people will pick up on it in your conversation. That's the thing. You don't need to like tell them like, hey, I'm so smart. It's like, just start the way you ask, by the questions you're asking, right? They'll be able to know. And then on the back end for retention, it's huge. I think, hey, your clients will pick up on it if you don't know anything and you always have to go to your client manager. You always be like, hey, let me ask about that. That's fine. I'm not saying that's bad to say, I don't know the answer. That's totally fine. I get that. You don't want to lie. But if you keep saying that over and over, you're 10 years in, and you still haven't learned anything, that's probably a problem. Like maybe look in the mirror and say, hey, I should probably start spending more time, investing more time in the knowledge piece of this thing. So all that, now back to the question, how would I point this guy to what he can do or where he can go to learn? Just a couple, the one that they try to have us do and a lot of agencies do is, hey, go get a designation. Okay. I got a CIC designation. There's other ones out there. Basically what these consist of is 2-day classes. You can do them online or in person, and they'll kind of cover one section of the policy, and they all work together. For like CIC, there's 5 different courses you can take, and then you get your designation. You got a test at the end. It's hard. Everyone that's in a CIC class, we all kind of say the same thing. It's like, hey, you go there, you'll kind of maybe pick up 2 or 3 things that like are good takeaways, right? But if you know nothing, it's a good place to start, I think. I also think just reading policy language and finding someone in your office who knows what they're doing on really on the service side, like on the marketing side, and ask questions. Ask a ton of questions your first year, and that's one of the best ways to learn. And but also carriers have a lot of good training ground for this. They have little schools you can take, so that go to your agency, talk with your agency, and ask if they can put the bill for you to go to maybe a 2-day producer school. The main thing though, you don't want it to be really about sales, because you're probably good at that or decent at that. You want to really learn the coverage or the knowledge side. So I think it's interesting when I just talked about CIC. I used to totally kind of be like, this is all for show, whatever, because there's a lot of people I saw with a lot of designations after their name that didn't know jack, right? The interesting thing with CIC, so last week I was bored and I went on Gemini on my phone and I said, hey, I'm thinking about hiring Micah Salas as my insurance agent. I'm a mid-market construction company. What are your thoughts? It was pretty interesting. I was
Wait,
happy
say
with
that
what it said.
again. Repeat that again.
I went on Gemini, right? It's ChatGPT for Google, basically. So Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever. And I said, hey, Gemini, I'm thinking of I'm a middle market construction company. I'm thinking of hiring Micah Salas as my insurance agent. What are your thoughts? And it was pretty interesting. For me, it was good. Uh, this is where all the credibility you're building online can help you out, because it pulled from my LinkedIn, it pulled from Google reviews that clients literally specified my name. So if you're not getting Google reviews, go do that and have your name be mentioned by a client. And I'm talking, even if you're an agent, it pulled my book. But this was the interesting thing, and said, hey, he appears very credible. And what it pulled from is it said he has a CIC designation, someone that you can trust. And so I just thought that was interesting, because I'm like, okay, that's why I knew that's kind of what the CIC had done all along. But to see now Gemini, AI basically checking the box
Yep.
whether they're right or wrong is pretty just, man, like, wow, good thing I got that designation. Thank you, Marsh, for forcing me to get that. I didn't really want to back in 2017. But I've kept it. And so if you're maybe a seasoned guy out here and you're thinking about dropping it or letting it go, just keep that in mind of where the future is going, and that might be one reason just to keep it just for that alone. The other thing is, are you posting content and all that stuff? Because again, for that whole perception is kind of reality. If you're not out there, if you have no voice at all, yeah, you can be the smartest guy in the room, but if people are just kind of doing their research, their due diligence before even hiring you or taking a meeting with you, maybe they see an email and be like, oh, can I reply to Micah and be like, well, let me check this guy out on Gemini quick, So I thought that was really interesting.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that that's the specific reason I'd go get a CIC, but I mean, I think that's super interesting.
Yeah. No, it's kind of an offshoot of Joe's question here, because I was saying, hey,
Sure.
get some designation, and because that's the best structure I know of. Some agencies have better training programs than others. I was at Federated. Even our training program was like reading policies. But I got to tell you this, it doesn't all come together until you're out there. Just you got to get reps, right? That's like the best way to really learn real customer experiences, things happening, and then you just asking a ton of questions and taking the time just to take ownership. Like, you get a quote back, because this guy's a wholesale broker, so it's like, hey, you get a quote back, like, take the time to dive into all the forms. Like, hey, I read through each form. I mean, literally read the policy, then and ask yourself, like, hey, go back to the carrier, like, what does this mean? And then maybe cross-reference what they say, or look up on Gemini or ChatGPT. Hey, I'm looking at this form and it has this. What's your interpretation? And that's how you really start. I mean, that's just how you learn it. But it kind of takes time to stick and to get more confidence. But you can pick it up quickly.
All right, so let's go over the points so far. What are you've hit two so far?
I think the two that I've hit is like get a CIC or some designation, and then I haven't really fully touched on this one, but just that bleeds into looking better on AI. But then also you can use AI or Gemini to learn as well. So like,
how would you do that?
For example, if I'm meeting with a sewer contractor and I'm looking at application beforehand, right? And I'm like, hey, it asks about gravity systems versus force main systems. What does that mean? Explain it to me like I'm a fifth grader. I actually did that. I was reading a book on construction, and I focus a lot on utility contractors, and I was like, I've heard it, but I'm like, I want to really know it, right? How kind of we know surface level about a lot of stuff. And so I asked Gemini, hey, explain to me the difference between these two methods. And that's all I said. And it broke it down like in 10 seconds, right? And I got perfect, like, great research, pros of each, cons of each, why you do each one, a brief kind of paragraph on how each one works. And it was enough to know, like, now in my mind, I will never forget the difference between gravity, sewer type systems versus force, and so I just use this ChatGPT, AI, whatever, use this to learn. This is how you speed up that learning curve. I think so many times we're thinking about how can we use it to prospect better. I, I don't know yet on that front. But I know from the knowledge piece, it's really helped me a lot. So.
Gotcha. So back to your earlier thing about live reps.
Yep.
So it's like, let's say baseball or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm taking live batting practice, it's close, right? But there's just nothing that you just can't replicate what happens in the game, because there's just so much nuance, and there's a runner on base, there's this, that, and the other, and there's just no substitute for live reps. And I think when it comes back to specifically for producers, at least when I was in production, the times that I made, because I did all the mistakes you were talking about. I would bring somebody else in, I would split revenue, whatever. I made the biggest jump in my coverage understanding when I actually went out and got it, and then just had to eat the shit sandwich of sitting there with the policy and reading it and taking notes, and then comparing it to the other deal that I did a couple of weeks before. Like, well, this roofing contractor has this exclusion, this one doesn't have this. What's the difference? And you have the coverage forms themselves, but then you have actually how it works inside of the market situation that you're in. Like, what carriers will give you what exclusion, what carriers want this, what carriers base it off payroll versus whatever. And that's the thing that the CIC can't do.
Correct.
It can't replace context of live reps in real situations, because I can know what XYZ exclusion is, but if I don't know how the interplay of that with the markets and who will do what and who's hot right now and who's not and who will exclude, who includes from a marketing standpoint, CIC just can't teach you that, because that's an ever-changing, ever-evolving landscape that's always ebbing and flowing. And that's a whole piece to this coverage thing that I don't think a lot of people talk about, because that's a second piece to it, but it's just as important. No, and that goes back to like why niching is so important. You've talked about 1,000 times, is because you have to know those little nuances inside your industry. Whereas if I'm Joe Blow and I'm a generalist and I'm coming into your industry, you're going to mop the floor with me, because you know all those intricacies of your market and the coverages and who's and the ups and downs and pros and cons and who will and won't do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, no, and the other thing is, that's a great point on the market side, but then if you go back to policy language and how it all fits together on the base level, let's say you read a GL policy for the first time, you see 26 exclusions, I don't know what the number is, right, into every policy on top of whatever's added. You might start to be, oh my gosh, this is crazy. They have 20 exclusions. They exclude pollution, they exclude employment practice, they exclude workers' comp, they exclude, and then your mind starts going crazy. But that's the thing, that's one piece of the puzzle, right? Well, it excludes auto liability because you have to buy an auto policy. It excludes employment practice because everyone excludes that, but you have to buy a separate policy for that. So I think sometimes you got to start on one policy, but then keep in mind the bigger picture. Like, okay, general liability is for third party, so other people's coverage, not first party. So no property should ever be covered under general liability, right? And I know this is stupid, but it's the principles of like why you got to go back to this. And so it's like third party bodily injury or property damage, and then you got to understand what triggers a claim. So there is a lot of different components to it. The CIC dives into some of that, but then also you need to understand like all the policies that exist, and then understanding what's common and what's not common. That's kind of some of the struggle too. Like if you look at a GL policy and it excludes something, you're like, is this common? I don't know, especially if you're a younger guy. Like obviously if we've been doing it for 5 years, you kind of know this stuff. You take it for granted.
It's industry specific, right? Like you might get into something and somebody who's a generalist, they're like, oh, punitive damages exclusion. But it's like, well, they haven't worked on this type of account in 5 years, and they don't know that nowadays, like in this moment, everybody has a punitive damage exclusion, and it just is what it is,
Yep.
But Yeah, so I think the application of that knowledge is just as important as the knowledge itself.
Yes, 100%. It was interesting. I was playing golf with this guy, super successful, very rich, a couple weeks ago. Anyways,
Can we say wealthy, not rich? Because rich has this like negative connotation from like
sure.
libtards that somehow it comes at the expense of others. So let's use wealthy. I don't like the word
Oh
rich.
yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Wealthy. Um, you know. Anyways, he was we played a round of golf. We're getting done, and he's like, "Yeah." I told this young guy, I said, "If you're not reading 4 hours a day, you're falling behind." And I was sitting there like, "Oh," I was like, "Damn." Okay. I was like, "Yeah." Shaking my head. I was thinking like, I don't read 4 hours a day. He's like, and I'm not talking like LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm talking like read a journal, read a trade journal, read a book, read whatever. And now I will say I don't agree that 4 hours. I think 4 hours is a little bit overkill if you have young kids, right? If you have no kids or kids are older, sure. Instead of being on your phone, you probably have time to. I'd say four is still tough. I think 1 to 2 is definitely reasonable if you kind of look at like 20-minute segments, maybe a couple times throughout the day. But anyways, I'm not here to debate what's the right amount, but it either way, the point to me was like I got to read more, or I don't need to waste time on not waste time. I don't need to. I need to invest more time, be more intentional with some of my time on getting better at my craft, right? And so for me, what that really looked like is I got a book. I was reading some article, and then he had mentioned the name of a guy who wrote this book, and it was all about like some surety stuff and financing for contractors. I was like, man, I've been working with contractors for all these years. I know what construction looks like kind of from the outside looking in, and it's my niche. But I always want to know more, right? And so I got this book like, hey, I don't even know what it's called right now, but it's like a textbook style book for contractors. But it's really well written. I've actually recommended it to 2 clients. They've now bought it. They loved it. And so I started diving in, and that's what I spend my time reading, right? Instead of junk. And I'm just saying like low frequency junk. Like just like a diet. Like what are you inputting in your mind? And so
Sure.
yeah, now I enjoy reading on like spirituality, on mindset stuff, but I think I've kind of saturated that for a little bit. It's like I still like to listen to that maybe here and there, but it's like okay, I need to go back to kind of some practical useful skills. Like what can I learn about? Like maybe it's learning how to read Spanish or whatever. But so
Yeah,
trying to
I go
just
through
stages.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like I think, and you can have both, right? I don't want to read 4 hours a day about construction, but I think it was just kind of like an eye opener. Like, man, I gotta be more intentional with and that's one reason we always talk about cold calling and how 40 calls a day, is great. And we talk about the free time it gives you. That's the thing. You can invest 2 to 3 hours and you have 4 to 5 hours a day to do whatever the heck you want to do. I think a chunk of that, maybe it's an hour, should be reading, and it's might seem weird, but go read a trade journal, go read something about a niche that you're calling on, go read something about insurance, pick up a book that's a useful skill, something involved with your career, maybe during work hours, right? So that's what I would say
Yeah,
to
that's,
this
that's
guy.
an interesting not dichotomy. What's the word I'm looking for? That's an interesting, what is something that contradicts itself? Like you have to give it away to keep it. What's that called? It's
Yeah, irony is one word, but
no, it's an
that's not the word you're
interesting,
thinking.
damn it. All right, whatever.
Paradox.
Paradox. Let's go.
Let's go.
Paradise. You know what I mean? Paradise.
You got to read,
Paradox.
baby.
No, yeah, good point. What's that word? Yeah, that's right. Oh, by the way, side note, I was watching this thing last night and it was like this guy was on Wheel of Fortune and it comes down to the last one, and it was literally like T blank E and then Acropolis. Like Acropolis was so obvious. It was missing like O's, So
Yeah.
it was like so obvious. And he's like, all right, you have 10 seconds. And he's like, toe Acropolis. Two Acropolis. He couldn't even think the. Oh my God, what an idiot. And I just totally messed up Paradox. But anyways.
That's funny.
Oh my God! Now I just went on this tangent and I forgot what I was going to say. It was the paradox.
Well, it was about paradox. So you're saying it's kind of like, it was interesting. I don't know where you're going to go with it.
Yeah. Wow. What a freaking brain fart. I'll hit a tangent and then hit a tangent of a tangent and then a tangent of a tangent and then I can't find my way back home. Oh God. What was it? Oh, number of calls. Okay. So when you see that and you're like, oh my God, 40 calls.
Some people look at it one way, and I look at it like it's not that much, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, it's all relative, like what you're used to your volume, right? Like, so if you work out every day, then it's not a big deal. But if you don't work out, and then I tell you to work out every day, you're like, oh my God, it's just what you're. But the interesting paradox is when you look at 40 calls a day, which take about 2 hours, you're like, oh my God, this is so overwhelming. But then when you do it and you look up and you don't have let's say you don't have a client meeting that day or you don't have any like renewal work, you're like, holy shit, I just got rid of my highest lever, like my biggest levered work. I can do whatever the hell I want for the rest of the day. I can read a trade journal. I can do whatever. And yeah, like if you have client work or whatever, or renewals or SUPs or whatever to do, but it is crazy. Like by investing in that work, which does take time. Once that's done, you look up, you're like, dude, the world is my oyster. I have so much free time if I don't have other busy work.
Absolutely. And that's why I continue to just, we've talked about this before, but just be so bullish on it because it's like, it's such a good use of time, in my opinion. Like yesterday, I look at it, I was gone all afternoon for sure. I literally had 2 hours available in the morning, or like an hour and a half. I busted out 40 calls on the dot, 6 conversations, ended up having 1 yes, which is a funny story, 4 no's, and 1 follow-up later. And then I looked back, like the day before, I could only make 9 calls because I was slammed. But then the day before that, made another 47, had 8 conversations that to me. So it's just like, you can't tell me that's inefficient when you only need 10 to 12 sales to be successful a year. Like that's,
what we should start doing? We should track every episode what your call activity was for that week. Number one, it helps keep you accountable, right? And number two, people can actually see your pipeline work in action.
Sure. Yeah.
Side note, I mean, that's pretty much what Producer Games is going to be once we finally get that up. For those of you who know about the little app we're launching, it's Producer Games. It's basically like a national leaderboard and prospecting tracker. Helps you track your own activity to keep you accountable, but then it also has like a national leaderboard so you can see how your activity compares to John in Idaho and Micah in Texas and Jerry in New Jersey. And it kind of just keeps, the Max Revenue community accountable and, just gamifies prospecting. I mean, let's be honest, sometimes prospecting is a kick in the nuts. And this is a way to like add a little bit of dopamine to it so to keep you on track and help you, keep hitting your activity goals. So that will be coming out. Hopefully. It was supposed to be ready November 1st, but then we ran into a problem with the API with LinkedIn where LinkedIn is not cooperating, because what we want to be able to do is we want you to be able to snapshot your activity for the day, right? It gives you those coins, or it gives you, like, ta-da, the, confetti falls from the sky. And we want you to be able to share that to your network, right? So that you can like post for public accountability. But the API with LinkedIn is being a pain in the ass. So our developers is taking a little longer to figure that out. And we may not even have it when we launch, but we will eventually figure that part out. So anyways, that's the update.
Do you want to hear the funny story that I just
mentioned? Fire away.
That I teased? Okay, so this is like the perfect, anyone who's ever called data from like Zoom Info, you could probably appreciate this, right? Because we all know that the data is probably, Zoom info is probably the best, but it's still 50% accurate, maybe. I don't know. Especially cell phones. Like, it's always, sometimes you get like their wife, their kid, whatever, some other person with the same name. So yesterday, I pulled up Insurance Xdate, had notes from a year ago. I had a number in my notes to call this company. Call it. The guy picks up. I never talked to him before. Says, hey, it's John. I'm like, hey, John, what's going on? He's like, man, I don't do the insurance. You're going to have to talk to the owner. And I said, is the owner's name Pete by chance? And he's like, yes, that is. I said, okay, great. Well, I said, you don't need to leave a message. I actually got his cell phone number. You know, I'll call that direct. He said, great, go for it. I think he's pretty happy, but feel free to call him. So I call Pete. Hello, this is Joey. I'm like, yeah, hey, I was looking for Pete.
No, you
This
cut
is-
out. Say that over again. You cut out.
Oh,
Say that over.
so I call the number and I was like, hello, this is Juicy. Julie. Like,
Well done.
yeah, hey, I was looking for Pete. No, this is his mother. He hasn't lived with us for like 20 some years. Hold on, I'm driving right now. Let me pull over. I'll text you a cell phone number. I'm just like, okay, I'm not gonna argue if you want to give me a cell phone number without vetting me out, you know. And then, so she's like, I wait about 30 seconds. I was like, well, don't crash, you know. And she pulls over. She calls. She starts talking. Hey, okay, yeah. His cell phone number is blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. She's like, who's this again? I'm like, oh, this is Micah Sal's, you know, Christensen group. She's like, okay, well, yeah. Just weird. He hasn't lived with us for like, 20, 30 years. So I'm like, okay. She's like, well, I'll text him. I'll let him know you're calling him or something. I'm like, sure, okay. So then I call him right away. He picks up and I'm like, hey man. And I kind of gave him the rundown of like everything, or how I got his info. I was like, hey man, I called this guy. He said to call you. Then I called what I thought was your cell phone. Then is your mother. She gave me your cell phone. That's how I got your number. He's like, all right. He's like, well, I hate insurance and blah, blah, blah. You know, a nice guy, but he's just kind of telling me, he's kind of a funny guy. And so we start talking. He's a contractor, right? And we just start shooting the shit. And it was just funny because basically, I'm just saying this to show how the data like sucked so bad. But he's like, dude, I haven't lived with my mom in like 40 years, man. I don't know where you got that from. I was like, honestly, man, I said, I pay for this service. It scrapes data. I said, that's how I got it. I must be.
By the way, this is not Insurance Xdate. This is another person. This is
correct,
not Insurance Xdate.
This is Zoom info. Sorry if I blew our sponsorship opportunity there.
Don't say the word.
Zoom's the best, honestly, in terms of data. So I will say that as well. Just say no one's perfect. Okay. So then we get to the end of the call. It was actually a pretty cool story because he was basically like, and I put a LinkedIn post on this yesterday. He was like, man, I don't speak insurance. If I did, I'd probably chew you out because I hate insurance and it's the worst. It's a scam. Ever since the 1960s when they forced us to, one of those guys. And I just kind of play along with it. I'm like, yeah, man, I get it. No, insurance sucks. And he's like, but my wife really handles everything. He's like, I tell you what, we are talking about it because we're splitting off from my old business partner who he handled the insurance. But now we need our own for the company. Pretty good sized company, do about 6 million sales. We're, utility contractor, whatever. But I'll take your info and add it to the list. I know she's talking to 2 or 3 people, I think. We're just about to start this project, look at the insurance after our taxes get resolved. And why not blanket the whole market, man? I'm like, yeah. I said, well, hey man, you know the reason you probably hate insurance? And he's like, why? He's like, well, it's kind of messed up the way the game's set up. And I said, and I just explained it to him about a minute. That's all it took. And he's like, man, I wish that sounds like some info I should have had 7, 8 years ago. That would have really helped my life. And I was like, oh man, I'm sorry we didn't connect sooner. And I said, because I basically told him, I said, if I was you, what I would do, man, ultimately I told him how it worked. Is if I was you, I'd pick 1 agent or 2 at most. But you could be fine with 1, but just interview him, man. Treat it like a real estate deal. You pick 1 agent. Like now, if you want to go with 2, that's fine. But make sure you ask about markets that they have and the relationships with each one. Don't just kind of pick the one that sings the best song and dance. And he just appreciated it. This is kind of the funny part of it all, just to come back and kind of make it come full circle. So then I'm like, yeah, man, I wrote a book, on what I just explained. He's like, you wrote a book? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, wow. He's like, well, send me all your. He sent me his contact card. Got him and his wife's information. We're gonna set up a time to talk. But the funny thing is, I said, hey man, where should I send it to? I had blah, 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 up in Buda. And he's like, no, we haven't ever been there, man. And then I'm like, okay, well, I had this address here. And he's like, dude, where that? Like, we haven't been there in 8 years. And so then ultimately he gives me his address to send the book to. And anyway, so that's the full circle deal. Is like how bad the data was. You know, I start calling his mom, then I have everything wrong, and it still worked out fine. So I just thought it was kind of a funny story.
Hey, I called a guy that had been dead since the 80s once.
Oh, dude, since the 80s, I think my longest has been like 5-6 years. But
Yeah.
80s, that's wild.
Bro.
What'd you say?
Wild.
I was like
anyways,
what'd you say?
dude, this internet connection is absolute garbage. I think it's yours.
No, I have Google Fiber.
Bro, I got AT&T fiber. Holla.
I think it's been good the whole time actually on my end.
Yeah, I'm sure it's mine. We have like all the fancy good stuff, but for whatever reason, there's something about my house. It doesn't distribute well throughout my house. Like I think it's like set up in a non-optimal spot, and so then whatever. Neither here nor there. All right, let's circle the wagons. Let's get back to first principles. We're talking about like how to get better at the coverage stuff. Okay, and so just to recap, number one, yes, go get designations. I'm all for it. Some are better than others. I know there's that one worker comp thing that's like super, super cool, and they like help you out a ton. Carruthers, and I think the guy's name's like Kevin Ring or whatever. Go check. Like, yes, we rail on designations, but it's not that designations are bad. It's that people focus on designations and use that as busy work to like mask the work they should be doing, which is opening doors, right? So
Yep,
it's not either or, it's both and, right? We talk about that a lot. It's not binary, it's both and. Okay. So that's the first. Yes, go get designations. And second, we have all these tools now, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever. Use it, bounce back and forth of it. I love the voice to text. So I'll ask it, like, hey, I'm setting up my new computer and I need to know about X, Y, and Z. How do I do whatever? And like, boom, it'll just talk with you. And so you can use that for coverage analysis. And then 3, live reps. Like when you do get the opportunity to get in somewhere, you get policies, whatever, like you just really got to get into the weeds. Like there's no other way around it. You got to eat the shit sandwich and get in there and write it down and take notes and keep everything on file so you can see which policies carry which exclusions, and then do they give it back and all these different things. Like there's really no, I think when it all comes down to it, you can get designations, you can use ChatGPT, all these things, but like at the end of the day, there's really just no substitute for live reps. Is that what we're basically coming down to?
Yep, I think so.
And how do you get live reps? More at bats.
Cold
How
calls.
do you get more at bats? More outbound. So once again, it all comes back out to more outbound. Is that where we're gonna?
Yeah, that was a great recap and a great off the cuff full circle back to the core principle of outbound is really the core, because you can learn and all that other stuff, but if you're not getting opportunities and meetings, you're going to get fired. I mean, that's just what it comes down to, or you're going to go starving, right? Sure. So you need to get opportunities. You need to get conversations. And
before we go, do you have your numbers in front of you? Like, can you recap your numbers for the last? We're recording this on a Friday, so do you have your numbers for the week?
For my sales outbound calls?
Yes. Is this a week we want to share or we don't want to share? Have you taken your own medicine this week?
I'll be realistic with people. Let's see here. Let's see what it says. I have not hit 40 a day, because I was talking to one guy. He has about a 1.5 million book, and he was like, man, how do you get 40 calls a day every day? I was like, dude, I'm an advocate of it, but once you get a book of business, it's hard to do it every day. You're going to miss days. It's just the fact. So it's like, be intentional with the time you do have is the biggest thing. Okay, so let me see. I never added my numbers from yesterday. Let's see. So we had, okay. Today I'm going to make call. It's a Friday. We're recording this, so I need to get off this and make calls for about an hour and a half. So I should make probably 30 today is probably my guess. But let's just say, so for 4 days this week, Monday, I made nothing. Bad day. I had a lot of office work. That's just the reality. I could have probably squeezed in 25, 30. I was just stupid. The Tuesday, 47 calls, 8 conversations, 2 yeses, 4 nos, 1 follow-up later. Then the next day, Wednesday, 9 calls only, 2 yeses, or 2 conversations, 0 yeses, 2 nos, 0 follow-up laters. And then yesterday, 40 calls, 6 conversations, 1 yes, 4 nos, 1 follow-up later. So basically 3 meetings this week.
In
16.
how much time?
Oh man.
That's the thing. It's like you set 3 meetings in roughly 2.5 hours of work. It's like,
well, no, because there was
you know,
2 hours on Tuesday and probably about an hour and a half. So yeah, but let's just say 4 hours of work. I talked to 16 mid-market business owners and got 3 of them to say yes and got 2 people to say follow back up later. So I got 2 warm leads for later. I got 3 hot. I mean, I could stop today. I don't even have to, like, I could go play golf if I want to, or, you know, whatever. It's just wild, man. It's just wild.
All right. Well done, sir. With that, let's sign off, guys. Link to the Max Revenue letter, subscribe, weekly newsletter. Sometimes it goes out on Mondays, sometimes it goes out on Wednesdays, Thursdays, whatever. We're in a reshuffling period right now. So I will get it out. That is my responsibility. I will get it out. I will do my damnedest to get it out on time. I apologize. Things have just been wonky the last couple of weeks. And check out Micah's YouTube. We're now up on like Twitter and Instagram and all that shit as well. And then, you know, if you want to go further down the rabbit hole and learn Micah's system from front to back, we have the producer playbook. Pretty cheap. I mean, if you partied like me, it's cheaper than a night out with your friends in your 20s.
Yep.
So
with
that,
well worth it.
Let's go. With that, we'll bid you adieu, guys. We appreciate you listening as always. You got a lot of things you could be doing, but you take time to listen to 2 idiots talk about insurance. We don't take it for granted. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Adios, everyone.
All right. Adios. Bye.